Our question of the day coming in from Will in Pennsylvania. Dave, leadership often requires making unpopular decisions for the sake of the mission. How do you lead with conviction when you know the team might disagree or even resent you in the short term? I don't have that happening much. We lead with conviction and we lead on principles, but we've communicated so clearly what those principles were all the way back to the hiring process. So when you're onboarding, you know the principles that we use to make decisions. So later on, we've talked about we use those principles to make decisions, and we talk about it called core values, and this is how we make our decisions, and this is what we do, and this is how we're convicted, and this is who we are, and then when I make a decision based on that, no one is shocked. They'd be quite shocked if I didn't do that. They don't get whiplash because this is who we are. And why would you disagree? I mean, this is what you signed on for. You wouldn't really disagree. Now, you might disagree if we were doing something that was contrary to the values that we promised you we were going to use to make decisions based on. And that would be valid because then you'd be hypocritical, right? But you don't have convictions when you're hypocritical. You're just being convenient and compromising and wussified and all that stuff. So how do you lead with conviction when you know the team might disagree? I can't think. I mean, the team might disagree about things that are not missional but tactical. They might say, hey, the best way to score a touchdown here is a running play to the right, and I'm going a running play to the left, and neither one of those are a missional decision. It's just a tactical decision. And then they can make an argument for that, and I can make an argument for mine, and we can talk about it together, and then we'll decide which play to run to get the touchdown because we want to win the Super Bowl. We're both trying to agree on that, but it's not like we decided we're going to play soccer instead of football. I mean, we're still playing football. We're still trying to run the dadgum ball into the end zone. And so we didn't change sports. It's what we're doing. So I haven't had a time when the team disagreed on something I was doing from conviction based on the principles that they knew were here when they joined the company. That has not come up. I have had team members think that they knew something about a situation that I couldn't disclose, and so they thought I was being hypocritical, and they thought I was making a non-principled decision, but they didn't have the information, and Had that happen, and they quit because they thought they worked for a jerk, and I had information they didn't have that I had to make a decision based on that, and it was confidential stuff I couldn't get into. So I have had that, but only like one time in 30 years have I run into that. Most of the time when we're making a principal decision, we can disclose everything around it. A decision of conviction, a decision of mission. We can talk about it. We can all make sure, is this decision aligned that's missional, and this is the mission you signed up for, so there's not a question. We're going to go clear the room, and that's what we got to do. This is what we do. And so typically where I've had team members disagree, even on tactical things, and create resentment is where we had not communicated clearly to them why we were doing something, and the why aligned with our core convictions, and the tactical aligned with our core convictions. And if you've got a different way to do this, tell me what it is. But sometimes I've had folks that were immature, but again, that was a hiring problem, right? Because then you're just being an immature child because you don't like the fact that we changed the coffee machine or whatever the flip it is, right? And and I have had times where we did not communicate change far enough in advance and clearly enough, and then when we hit the curve hard on the change and we whip around the corner on the change, the centrifugal force has thrown some people out of the car. They couldn't handle the change the rate of change. But some of that was they couldn't handle the rate of change, and some of that was we didn't communicate it far enough in advance, like, hold on, we're hitting the corner here. Grab hold. I mean, 2 hands and the seatbelt. Get a hold. Otherwise, you're going to flip out because we're hooking this puppy. And so, I've had that happen, but that was just a communication issue where we didn't do a good job of selling the dream and selling the vision. And Bible says where there is no vision, the people perish. And so, casting that vision, saying this is where we are, this is who we are, this is where we're going, this is why we're going here. And, I have had that. So, but I am having trouble really coming up with a solid example in our experience that we've had this. I've not had, the other thing, the term in this question that bothers me is the team might disagree or even resent you. See, I don't have people resenting me for very long. They either need to not resent me or leave, because I'm not giving you money, my money, to work here. If you resent me, it's kind of like part of the deal we have, that we like each other, we trust each other, we treat each other with dignity. You don't get to roll your eyes and go, Dave's a crazy man, and he has no idea what the flip he's doing, and I'm going to cash his check on Friday. That's not something we do here. So I have a real low tolerance for that, like 0. And so I'll be nice to you, but you're not going to work here anymore. And so that's part of what I'm having trouble plugging into with the way your question is phrased. So we're definitely going to buckle down. We're going to say, this is what we're doing. Very clear, very principled, starts at the hiring process. And, get buy-in from the team, cast a vision. This is who we are. This is a vision. This is where we're going. This is why we're changing. This is what we're doing. And then if they can't hang on when we make the corner, then they can't hang on. But you need to be in the car or out of the car. You can't ride in the car and roll your eyes about the car. That's not how it works. So contempt is not something we deal with from our team. We don't have contempt. I don't have contempt for the team, and they don't have contempt for me. It's a fair deal. We're both like grown-ups and stuff. If you have contempt for someone, you should go work somewhere else because you think your leader's an idiot. And so that's, pretty simple. Yeah. So, and I will tell you this, Will. You said, how do you lead with conviction when you know ... There is no real leadership unless it's with conviction. Leadership that's done as a compromise with no backbone, go along to get along, that's not leadership. That's just mob rule. And so all real leaders have a conviction about them. They feel strongly about things. Otherwise, you're just not a leader. You're a follower in a leader's jacket, and you got a little plaque on your desk, but you're not really leading anything. You're just going along. The leaders all have conviction. So it's the only way you can lead, but the way to avoid the disagreement or resentment or whatever are the things we've just been talking about. That's a great question. It's interesting to give me a little diatribe on that, but I have found that over the 30 plus years of doing this, that the frustrating thing that I go back to most of the time when I've had team member problems in these areas that we've been talking about, it goes back to the hire and the onboarding process. We weren't clear to them what signing on meant, that this is who we are. And if you want to be a we, this is how we function. And we didn't do a good job at onboarding, and we didn't do a good job repeating over and over and over, this is who we are, this is our value system, this is how we make decisions, this is what convicts us, what we have conviction based on. And if we keep all of that, a streamline of communication that's very, very clear about who we are, then when we act like we act, no one is shocked. No one disagrees. No one has resentment because they fully expect us to do that because it's what we have been saying since they had the very first contact with us. But when we don't keep that steady stream of communication about our values and constant teaching and constant thinking about it all the way back to the very first day you come to work here, or even in the interview process before you come to work here, then that's where we have had the most trouble. In other words, we get people in the building that thought we were playing one game and we were playing another. And that's our fault because we weren't clear. To be unclear in that situation is to be unkind.